viewers, you join us close to the festive season and Triumph have a gift for us. This is the new Speed 400 T4 and it is the most accessible Triumph you can buy today. And here is everything you need to know about this new motorcycle. In terms of styling, fit and finish and quality, there's not much to tell the Speed 400 and the T4 apart. That way they have preserved their standards quite well. But the most obvious changes are of course the lack of a USD fork at the front, and most of the elements below this line of the motorcycle are blacked out, whereas on the Speed 400 you can see different finishes, particularly on the exhaust. This one is blacked out, that one has a brushed steel finish. Other than that, the next big thing is that this motorcycle is available only in 3 colors, this white, a black and red. Now because this motorcycle has different suspension and different tires, there have been a few changes dimensionally. First of all, the seat height has gone up by almost 3 mm, as has the ground clearance. So how has that changed the riding position? Not much, to be honest, because the seating position is still fairly upright, comfortable, easy to be in all day. The biggest difference is for the pillion, because the pillion seat has been padded with extra foam up to 10 mm. And this seat also, the contour has been revised so that shorter riders can reach the ground easily. T4 is 1 kilogram heavier than the Speed 400 and most of that weight gain comes from the handlebar, tires and the engine. We'll get to that in a minute, but before that, the handlebar. Although it may look identical to the Speed 400, this is a steel unit, whereas that one is an aluminium unit. Now we talk about the important bit, the engine. The T4 is not just a Speed 400 with different paint schemes and different componentry. There's more to it. Bajaj and Triumph have done very meaningful and useful changes to the engine. The bore and stroke and displacement remains the same, as does the nature of the engine. But what has changed is that this motor now produces 9 horsepower less and 1.5 Newton meter less than the Speed 400. But commendably, the peak power and peak torque arrive 1000 RPM earlier than its counterpart. To achieve that, Triumph and Bajaj have revised a lot of things in this motorcycle. So we start with the intake. The opening of the intake has been revised, as has the length of the connecting tube. And finally, the throttle body, which is 46 mm in the Speed 400, has been reduced to 38 mm in this motorcycle. Then we come to the actual engine, and in there, at the flywheel end of the crankshaft, they have added more weight to give this motor more inertia to improve the torque down below, particularly in the 2500 to 5500 bracket, and that's what they claim. In town, it translates to excellent pull in almost every gear in our congested city conditions. It also makes this motorcycle very exciting to ride when you go out just to enjoy it. Finally, Triumph have also made changes to the end can. So the exhaust note of this motorcycle is slightly different when compared to the Speed 400. It is clear that the T4 is not meant for sporty riding. This motorcycle's focus is more about comfort and everyday use. That being said, its 31 horsepower is more than enough to cruise comfortably at speeds up to 120 kilometers per hour. And the only difference one feels in terms of performance when compared to the Speed 400 is that at a certain speed, at a certain gear, at a certain RPM, if the Speed 400 is capable of a certain amount of acceleration, for the same amount of acceleration, the T4 needs to be in a gear lower, and that's it. To that effect, Triumph have also changed the final drive gearing of this motorcycle. The Speed 400 had 15-43. This motorcycle has 15 and 39. So overall, a taller gearing. To optimize cost, Triumph have removed a few electronics from this motorcycle. It does not get a ride-by-wire throttle, it does not get traction control, nor does it get an immobilizer. One of the biggest changes in the T4 has to be in the suspension department. Now, although you may not notice it, the monoshock is not the same unit that we get in the Speed 400. They have changed a few things, including the spring and the damping inside it and all of that. The front is more obvious. No USD fork here, just a regular fork. But it is interesting to note that this fork and the USD in the Speed 400 have the same travel, whereas at the rear, this monoshock has 10 mm lesser travel than the Speed 400. Changes to the suspension have brought about a few changes in geometry as well, but they are not extremely drastic. For example, the rake is the same as the other motorcycle, the trail has changed, and as a result, the wheelbase of the motorcycle has also changed. Although it may not seem obvious, the tires on this motorcycle are different. These are MRF Nylon Grip Zapper units and they are not radials. But that is not the interesting bit. The interesting bit is that the front tire on this motorcycle is 110/70, whereas on the Speed 400, it's 110/80. And at the back, the story is the same. The Speed 400 has the wider 150/70 tire, whereas this is a 140/70. So essentially, that makes the sizes of the wheels also slightly different. So far, we have spent about 50 odd kilometers in town and on the outskirts of town, and so far, no complaints whatsoever. While it is okay not to expect massive levels of performance from the T4, ride quality is an important aspect. And in this motorcycle, like I said earlier, the idea is to be able to ride easily and at your own pace. And for that, I would expect something that returns a plush ride quality. Now the front fork does that, but the rear suspension, not so much. I mean, it's not a point of complaint, but when we consider the Speed 400 and the T4, I would have preferred this motorcycle's rear shock to be a little more plush. Although not up to sport bike standards, the braking on the Triumph T4 is more than adequate and nothing to complain about or improve on that front. Now we come to the main question, which is how much difference is there in fuel efficiency? Well, you'll be happy to note that this motorcycle returns 4 kilometers per litre more than the Speed 400, or at least that's what Bajaj claim. Now the next most important question, should you buy this motorcycle? If you're somebody who wants a Triumph 400 but does not want it to be extremely peppy and fast and all that, this makes for a very reasonable alternative. But the problem I have with this motorcycle is that it is priced at Rs 2.17 lakh, whereas the Speed 400 is at 2.40 lakh, which is a difference of 23,000 rupees, which is less than 10% between these two motorcycles. Personally, I feel this is an excellent motorcycle in terms of performance, handling, and the ride quality could be improved, but overall, it's an excellent motorcycle. But if I were to go to a showroom fully expecting to buy this motorcycle, once I reach there, I feel I would find a way to make 23,000 rupees more and get the Speed 400. So what I'm trying to say is, if the price difference between the T4 and the Speed 400 were larger, then this would make a stronger case for itself. That's all from our side for now. This is Joshua Varghese signing off for Biking.